Sometimes life has a way of stacking problems on you, one thing after another. The car breaks down, the bills pile up, the relationship feels like it's falling apart, and you start to wonder, God, where are you in all this? Even see what I'm going through. But I came here to remind somebody tonight, you don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to carry it all on your own, because the God who spoke the stars into existence, the God who parted the Red Sea, the God who brought dead things back to life, He is the same God who is working in your situation right now. God sees what you can't see, already working behind the scenes. See, the problem with us is we live inside the frame, but God is the one holding the whole picture. You're staring at one moment, one problem, one heartbreak, one bill, one doctor's report, one closed door, and you think that's all there is. But what if the very thing you're staring at right now, the very thing that looks like it's falling apart, is the exact piece God is rearranging to work for your good? You can't see it because you're in it. You're too close to it. Is not bound by your view. He is not limited by what you can calculate or predict or understand. He's already working behind the curtain of your life. While you're crying yourself to sleep at night, He's arranging favor for the morning. While you're replaying the hurt in your mind, He's releasing healing in your heart. While you're looking at doors that shut in your face, pairing doors you didn't even know existed. And the enemy wants to convince you that because you can't see it, nothing is happening. Trick you into believing that silence means absence. But silence is not absence, it's strategy. Just because God hasn't shown you the answer yet doesn't mean He isn't already writing it. Just because you can't track His movement doesn't mean He isn't moving. You're living in what feels like a delay. But heaven is living in a different dimension where your outcome is already secure. You think you're waiting on God. Sometimes it's God waiting on you to trust Him enough to let go. Think about Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, locked in a prison, forgotten by men. But the whole time, God was positioning him for a palace. Joseph couldn't see it in the pit. He couldn't see it when he was falsely accused. He couldn't see it when the door slammed shut and the key turned. But God saw what Joseph couldn't see. And what looked like a setback was a setup for the greatest comeback. God was moving behind the scenes. When the time was right, not a second too late, He brought Joseph into the place of destiny. And the same God who was faithful to Joseph is the God who is faithful to you. He sees the pain you don't talk about. He sees the prayers you whispered when no one was around. He sees the nights you thought you wouldn't make it through. And He's saying, I see what you can't see. I see the connections you don't know about. I see the opportunities you haven't imagined yet. Healing already coming towards you. Breakthrough already on its way. The problem is you're looking with natural eyes when this battle requires spiritual vision. If you're only looking at what you can measure, calculate, or control, you'll always feel disappointed. But if you'll dare to believe that God is bigger than your view, you'll realize He's not just watching the story, He's writing it. He knows the end from the beginning, and He's already worked out details you don't even know are missing yet. Sometimes God doesn't show you the whole plan, because if He did, you'd run from it. If He showed Joseph the palace, also have to show him the pit. If He showed David the crown, He'd also have to show him Goliath. If He showed you the blessing, have to show you the burden that comes with it. So instead, He lets you walk one step at a time, that He knows what you can't see. That's why Proverbs says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Because your understanding is limited. Your perspective is flawed. Your emotions cloud your judgment. But God's vision is perfect. He sees the end result, the purpose behind the pain. He sees the growth behind the grief. He sees the transformation inside the trial. And if you trust Him, He will take the very pieces that feel scattered and shattered and build something stronger than what you lost. I don't know who this is for, but somebody needs to hear this. You are not overlooked. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You may feel invisible right now, but heaven has its eyes on you. God sees you struggling, and He's not just watching from a distance. He is actively working behind the scenes. He's shifting hearts, moving mountains, rerouting plans, aligning people, opening doors, closing wrong ones, positioning opportunities, stage for His glory to show up in your situation. It may not look like it yet. It may not feel like it yet. Faith is not about what you see. It's about what you trust. And if you can trust God when you can't trace Him, if you can trust Him when the evidence doesn't match the promise, if you can trust Him when it feels like nothing is happening, then you'll discover that He was working all along. He was fixing it in ways you couldn't understand. He was making a way where there was no way. He was orchestrating a story far greater than the chapter you're in right now. What looks broken to you is a building block in God's hands. A God who doesn't waste anything. Not your mistakes, not your failures, not your heartbreaks, not even the seasons you wish never happened. The things you call broken, God calls useful. The things you try to throw away, God says, I can build with that. See, you're looking at your life like it's scattered pieces on the floor, shattered dreams, failed relationships, unanswered prayers, and you think it's all over. But the God who formed man out of the dust of the ground, who fed a crowd of 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish, the God who took the cross, an instrument of death, and turned it into the greatest symbol of victory, that same God knows how to take what is broken and build something you never imagined. When something in our lives breaks, we want to hide it. We want to cover it up, pretend it never happened, push it into the corner where nobody can see. But God is not afraid of your brokenness. He is not intimidated by your weakness. In fact, in taking the broken parts and making them beautiful, what you thought disqualified you, He uses to qualify you. What you thought was the end, He makes the beginning. He doesn't see broken pieces. He sees building blocks. Story of the boy with the lunch. To everybody else, it looked too small. To the disciples, broken down by comparison to the size of the crowd. But in the hands of Jesus, the very thing that looked insignificant became the very thing God used to feed thousands. And that's exactly what He's doing with your life. Give me the pieces. Give me the parts that don't make sense. Give me the pain you've been carrying. Because in His hands, shattered becomes sacred. In His hands, leftovers become more than enough. God will even allow things to break, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you on a stronger foundation. If the old system stayed intact, you'd never know you needed Him. If the old relationship never fell apart, you wouldn't have discovered your true worth. Plan you had for your life had actually worked. You would have settled for less than what He designed. So He allows the breaking not to crush you, but to position you. He allows the breaking to show you that your life is not in the hands of chance or circumstance, but in the hands of the Creator who knows exactly how to shape it. And I get it, it hurts. It's painful to watch dreams crumble, to feel like pieces of you are falling apart. But pain is not proof that God has abandoned you. Pain is proof that He's doing construction. It's proof that He's rearranging, removing, and rebuilding something better. You may not see it yet, but He's not wasting the pain. He's not wasting the tears. He's not wasting the nights you couldn't breathe under the weight of it. All as building blocks for what He's preparing in you. The truth is, if you never broke, you wouldn't know how much you needed God's grace. If you never hit rock bottom, you wouldn't know that Jesus is the rock at the bottom. If you never faced loss, you wouldn't understand restoration. Sometimes the breaking is the blessing in disguise. The greatest gift God can give you is to let what you thought was unshakable fall apart. He can show you that the only foundation worth standing on is Him. When a builder starts construction, he doesn't always use new materials. He takes what looks used, what looks old, what looks discarded, and he reshapes it. He sands it down. He fits it into a greater design. That's what God is doing with you. He's taking the parts you thought were useless and fitting them into a masterpiece. You're looking at a broken chapter, but He's looking at the whole story. You're crying over the broken glass, but He's already molding a new vessel. You're counting what you lost, but He's multiplying what you have left. Despise the broken seasons. Don't curse the shattered pieces. The thing you think ruined, you might be the very thing that refines you. The thing you think disqualified, you might be the very thing God uses to deliver somebody else. That brokenness is not wasted. That brokenness becomes a testimony. That brokenness becomes ministry. That brokenness becomes a platform for God to show His power. Paul said, we'll have this treasure in jars of clay. Do you know what that means? It means God put His glory in fragile, breakable vessels like us. When the cracks show, when the light shines through, nobody will mistake where the power came from. It was never about your strength. It was always about His. That's why you don't have to hide your scars. That's why you don't have to be ashamed of the broken places. They're not proof that you failed. They're proof that God is still building. Let the enemy laugh at the cracks in your life. Let people point out the areas that broke. What they don't realize is that every crack, every scar, every fracture is a place for God's glory to shine through. And when He's done building, when He's finished shaping, when He finally reveals what He's been constructing all along, look back and realize it never broke you. It built you. It never ended you. It launched you. What looked broken to you was nothing more than the raw material God used to build the masterpiece He had in mind all along. Trust is not about control. It's about surrender. The problem with most of us is we confuse trusting God with trying to manipulate God. We say we trust Him. We really mean is we trust Him as long as He does it our way in our time, according to our plan. Real trust doesn't cling. It releases. Real trust doesn't demand. It surrenders. Trust is not about telling God how to fix it, believing He already knows how. It's not about giving Him a blueprint and saying, "Here, God, follow my design." It's about handing Him the whole project and saying, "I trust you to build it however you want." Control feels safe to us. We think if we can just hold the pieces tighter, if we can plan better, calculate every possibility, make sure nothing goes wrong, then somehow we'll keep ourselves from getting hurt. But control is an illusion. You don't really control the outcomes. You don't control who stays or who leaves. You don't control when doors open or when they shut. The more you try to control it, the heavier life feels because you're carrying a weight you were never meant to carry. You were designed to trust, not to control. You were designed to lean on the one who holds all things together so tightly that your hands start shaking. Surrender is hard because it feels like weakness, but in God's kingdom, surrender is strength. The moment you let go is the moment His power takes over. The moment you unclench your fist is the moment His hand can move. As long as you're trying to force it, God will step back and let you. But the second you surrender, the second you lift your hands and say, "God, I can't, but I believe you can," that's when heaven invades your situation. That's when peace floods your mind. That's when miracles begin to manifest. Think about Peter stepping out of the boat. As long as his eyes were on Jesus, he was walking on water. But the second he tried to control the situation, the second he looked at the wind and the waves, he started to sink. Trust can't survive when control takes over. You can't walk by faith and by sight at the same time. You can't hold on to God and still insist on steering the ship. Trust says, I'll walk where you lead. And if I don't understand, trust says, I'll keep moving even when I can't map it out. Trust says, I don't know the how, but the who. The truth is, surrender is scary because it means admitting you're not in charge. But freedom begins when you realize you don't have to be. You don't have to hold everything together. You don't have to solve every problem. Have to control every detail. That's God's job. And He's better at it than you are. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows the path you can't predict. He knows the dangers you can't detect. He knows the opportunities you can't imagine. When you surrender, you're not losing control. You're placing control into the only hands that are capable of handling it. Have been living exhausted because you're trying to be God in your own life. You're trying to hold everything, fix everything, manage everything, and it's crushing you. But Jesus never said, come to me, all who have it figured out. He said, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That rest only comes when you surrender, when you finally say, God, I can't carry this anymore. When you lay the weight down at His feet and trust that He knows how to handle what you don't. And don't confuse surrender with passivity. Surrender doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It doesn't mean you stop praying, stop moving. No, surrender means you keep doing what you can while trusting God with what you can't. It means you plant the seed. You trust God for the rain. You swing the stone, but you trust God to drop Goliath. You march around the walls, but you trust God to make them fall. You bring your loaves and fish, but you trust Jesus to multiply them. Not giving up, it's giving over. And the reason surrender is so powerful is because it puts the pressure back where it belongs. On God, when you surrender, you're saying, God, the outcome is your responsibility. Obedience is mine. And that frees you to live with peace because you don't have to know how it will work out. Know who is working it out. You don't have to carry the burden of fixing it because you've placed it in the hands of the one who never fails. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, facing the cross, the weight of the world's sin on His shoulders. He prayed, not my will, but yours be done. That's the essence of surrender. That's the ultimate trust. That's the moment where heaven and earth collided. And God's greatest victory came from the place of greatest surrender. If Jesus Himself had to surrender, what makes us think we can hold on to control and still walk in the fullness of God's power? Is not losing. It's winning in God's way. Surrender is not weakness. It's strength through Him. Surrender is not the end. It's the beginning of miracles. And the very thing you're holding on to right now, the very situation you're trying to control, maybe the very thing God is waiting for you to release so He can reveal His glory in a way you've never seen before. Delay is not denial. Timing is perfect. One of the hardest lessons in faith is waiting. Waiting when you prayed and nothing changed. Waiting when you believed and it still looks the same. Waiting when you thought the door would open and it's slammed shut. And the enemy whispers, God forgot about you. See, He's not going to do it. See, if it hasn't happened by now, going to happen. But I came to tell you today that delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Just because the answer hasn't come on your timeline doesn't mean it isn't on God's. His timing is not late, is not early. His timing is perfect. Think about Lazarus. Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus, Lord, sick, and Jesus didn't rush. He didn't panic. He didn't sprint to the house. He delayed. He waited. And while he waited, Lazarus died. From the perspective, it looked like denial. It looked like Jesus didn't care. But from God's perspective, it was preparation for a greater revelation. Because if Jesus had come when they wanted Him to, He would have healed a sick man. Because He delayed. He raised a dead man. Sometimes God's delay is not because he doesn't love you. It's because he wants to show you a dimension of his power you would never have known otherwise. Delay is not the absence of God's activity. It's the stage for his sovereignty. While you think nothing is happening, heaven is aligning. While you think time is being wasted, eternity is at work. God doesn't measure time the way you do. You're counting minutes. He's building moments. You're watching the clock, but he's arranging the calendar. You think he's late. He's never missed an appointment. The truth is, if some of your prayers had been answered when you wanted them to settle for less than what he planned, if the relationship you begged God for had worked out in a place you were never meant to be, if the job you thought was everything had come through, he was preparing. Sometimes his not yet is mercy in disguise. His delay is protecting you from destruction. Sometimes his timing is the very thing saving your destiny. We live in a world that worships speed. We want it now, faster, quicker, instantly. We want microwave miracles. It's not a microwave. He's a master chef. And a master chef knows that slow cooking produces deeper flavor. That marinating produces richness. That waiting produces strength. The process isn't punishment, it's preparation. It's developing something in you during the delay that you'll need when the promise comes. And the truth is, exposes what's really in your heart. Anybody can worship when the blessing shows up. Anybody can trust when the answer is obvious. But can you still trust when the heavens feel silent? Can you still lift your hands when the prayer hasn't been answered? Can you still declare his goodness when the evidence doesn't line up? Because that's what real faith looks like. Doesn't expire when time passes. Faith endures the delay because it knows the one who promised is faithful. Think about Abraham. And he waited 25 years before Isaac was born. 25 years of delay, but not denial. Had a dream as a teenager, but he waited years through betrayal, slavery, prison, before he saw it fulfilled in the palace. David was anointed king as a boy, but spent years in obscurity and caves before he sat on the throne. All of them faced delay. None of them faced denial, because when God says it, he will do it. His promise is not bound by your calendar, is not trapped by your watch. His faithfulness is not limited by time. And maybe right now, that place of frustration, asking, God, why not yet? Why is it taking so long? Why do I still feel stuck? And God is whispering back, because I'm preparing you for what I've prepared for you. See, the delay is not just about the blessing. It's about building you into the person who can carry it. It's about strengthening your faith, deepening your roots, refining your character, shaping your heart, so that when the door finally opens, you won't just walk through it. You'll be ready to stay in it. That's why you can't despise the waiting season. That's why you can't let impatience rob you of your faith, because the delay you're living in is not wasted time. It's invested time. Every tear, every prayer, every moment of endurance is building something in you. It's creating endurance. It's creating resilience, creating a testimony that says, I didn't just get here instantly. I was built in the waiting room of God's timing. Delay tests your faith, but it also proves God's faithfulness, because when the answer finally comes, you'll realize it was worth every second of waiting. When the door finally opens, you'll see why it had to be shut before. When the blessing finally arrives, you'll know it could only have been God. And you'll understand that his timing wasn't just good. It was perfect. Don't give up in the delay. Don't quit in the middle. Don't assume, because it hasn't happened yet, that it never will. If God said it, if he promised it, he will perform it. Delay is not denial. Delay is divine timing. Delay is God preparing you for what he already prepared for you. And when his timing shows up, not a moment late, not a moment early, Everything you went through in the waiting was not wasted. It was necessary for the glory that's about to be revealed. Your weakness is the very place God's power shows up strongest. The world will tell you to hide your weakness, cover it up, push it down, pretend it doesn't exist. That whole equation upside down. The very thing you think disqualifies you is the very thing God uses to display His glory. The area you're ashamed of, the very place you feel too fragile, too broken, too small, too incapable. God says, that's exactly where I want to work. Because if you could handle it in your strength, if you could fix it on your own, if you could carry it without Him, you wouldn't need His power. But the fact that you can't, the fact that you feel weak, the fact that you're overwhelmed, that's the space where His strength steps in. Paul begged God to remove the thorn from his flesh. He prayed for it to go away. And God's answer was not what he expected. God said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Think about that. God didn't say His power shows up in perfection, in strength, in control. His power is made perfect in weakness. That means weakness is not your liability. It's your leverage. Weakness is not your curse. It's your canvas. Weakness is not the proof that you've failed. It's the platform for God to succeed. The enemy wants to convince you that weakness disqualifies you. Uses weakness as the very proof that you're chosen. When Gideon was called to lead Israel, he said, I'm the weakest in my clan. And God said, perfect. You're exactly who I want. Because when a weak man wins, wasn't his strength, it was God's. When Moses stood before Pharaoh, he stuttered, he felt unqualified, eloquent enough. And God said, I'll use your weakness as the channel for my words. When David faced Goliath, he didn't bring a sword or armor. He brought a sling and a stone. Weakness became the weapon. Over and over again. That the things we think disqualify us are the very things He uses to demonstrate His power. So stop running from your weakness, pretending you've got it all together. Stop trying to impress people with strength you don't have. God can't bless who you pretend to be. He blesses the real you, the weak you, the tired you, the broken you, the insecure you. Version of you that actually depends on Him. That's the version of you that doesn't lean on your own wisdom, your own talent, your own strategy. That's the version of you that cries out, God, I can't do this without you. And that's when His power shows up. Weakness doesn't repel God. It attracts Him. The very areas you want to hide from Him are the very places He longs to heal. The very cracks you try to seal shut are the very places His glory shines through. It's like jars of clay, fragile, breakable, imperfect. God chose jars of clay to hold His treasure. Why? So that when the cracks show, when the weakness is visible, that the power belongs to God, not to us. And sometimes God will even leave a weakness in your life on purpose, not to punish you, but to protect you. Because if you had no weakness, you'd be tempted to think you don't need Him. If you never hit limits, you'd assume you're limitless without Him. If you never felt incapable, you'd never know the joy of His strength carrying you through. Your weakness is not evidence that God abandoned you. It's evidence that God is closer than ever. His power doesn't rest on the strong. His power rests on the surrendered. Think about it. When are you closest to God? It's not usually when everything is perfect. It's when you're desperate. It's when you're broken. When you're on your knees crying out for help. That's when His presence is tangible. That's when His peace floods your heart. His strength lifts you up. Weakness creates space for intimacy with God. Away the illusion that you're in control, and reminds you that every breath, every step comes from Him. The world celebrates self-sufficiency. God celebrates dependency. The world says, your strength. God says, show me your weakness, because your weakness is where His glory gets the spotlight. People only ever saw your strength. They give you the credit. But when they see you succeed despite your weakness, they know it could only be God. Your weakness becomes your testimony. Your weakness becomes your witness. Your weakness becomes the megaphone that shouts what God did through me when I couldn't do it myself. So the next time you feel weak, don't despise it. Don't curse it. Don't hide it. Embrace it as the place where God wants to show up, because the weaker you are, the stronger His presence becomes. The emptier you feel, the more space there is for His Spirit. The less capable you are, the more capable He proves Himself to be. Your weakness is not the end of you. It's the beginning of Him. It's the place where heaven touches earth. It's the stage for supernatural power. It's the reminder that you are not enough, but He is more than enough. And when you finally get to the other side of what you thought you couldn't handle, when you look back at the thing you thought would break you, you'll realize it wasn't your strength that carried you. It was His. And you'll be able to say with Paul, when I am weak, because your weakness became the very stage for God's greatest power. The situation you fear most is the stage for God's greatest glory. Has a way of magnifying problems until they look bigger than God. Fear takes what is temporary and makes it look permanent. Fear whispers, this is the end of you. This is where you fall apart, where God leaves you. But the same place where fear tries to paralyze you is the place where God wants to demonstrate His power. The very situation that looks like it's going to destroy you is the very situation God intends to use to deliver you. The battlefield you dread walking onto is the very ground God has already claimed for His victory. Think about the Israelites at the Red Sea. Army behind them, water in front of them, nowhere to go. Fear told them it was over. Fear said, we're trapped. But that impossible situation was the setup for God to split the sea wide open. What looked like certain death became the stage for one of the greatest miracles in history. And notice, without the army behind them and the sea in front of them, they never would have witnessed that miracle. Filled situation was the very stage for God's glory to be revealed. David knew what it was to face fear. Shepherd boy standing in front of a giant warrior covered in armor, holding a spear towering over him. Everyone else ran away from the giant. David ran toward him because he believed the giant wasn't a sign of his defeat. It was a sign of God's glory about to be revealed. Wasn't bigger than God. It was simply bigger than David, which made the victory undeniable. And that's what you need to understand about your fear. The size of what you're facing isn't meant to intimidate you. It's meant to illustrate the size of the God who stands with you. Fear tries to convince you that the situation you're in is final. As a platform, fear says you're not going to make it. Faith says, watch how God shows up. Faith says, this is the beginning of a testimony. Fear says, you're trapped. Faith says, you're positioned for a miracle. The thing you're afraid of is not going to bury you. It's going to build you. You think will drown you is the same storm Jesus will use to show you He walks on water. The fire you think will consume you is the same fire where he'll walk with you in the flames and bring you out without even smelling like smoke. And let's be honest, fear is loud. Your mind, it keeps you awake at night. It plays out worst case scenarios in your imagination. Doesn't shout to compete with fear. He whispers to call you closer. And in the middle of the thing you fear most, presence is strongest. His glory shines brightest when your situation looks darkest. Because if you could handle it, if you could solve it, if you could control it, it wouldn't give Him glory. But when you're standing in front of something that terrifies you, you know is too big for you, and God brings you through it, that's when the world has to admit it wasn't you. Think about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. They didn't fear the fire. They said, even if our God doesn't deliver us. We will not bow. And it was in the middle of the flames, in the middle of the place everyone thought they would die, that God's glory was revealed. The king looked in and saw not 3 men, but 4 in the fire unharmed. The very situation designed to destroy them became the very place where God revealed his presence in undeniable power. And that's what he wants to do in your life. That thing you fear, that situation that looks like it's going to break you. You feel most helpless. That's where he wants to show up. The truth is, God often positions his glory in the middle of your greatest fear because that's where faith is required. If it didn't scare you, you wouldn't need him. If it didn't overwhelm you, you wouldn't call on him. If it didn't look impossible, you wouldn't realize how possible it is for him. Fear becomes the backdrop against which his glory shines. The darker the night, the heavier the storm, the clearer his voice saying, "Peace, be still." The bigger the obstacle, the greater the glory when it falls. So maybe right now you're staring at your own Red Sea. Maybe you're standing in front of your own Goliath. Maybe you're feeling the heat of your own fiery furnace, and fear is telling you this is the end of you. But God is saying,